the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by the streams of water, which yield its fruits in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Not so the wicked, they are like chaff that the winds blow away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watch over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. Let us pray. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power and glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Dr. Hubert Minnis, Peter Turnquest, Brent Simonet, Edmund Bannister, Renwood Wells, Jeffrey Lowe, Dr. Dwayne Sand, Marvin Dame, Frank Campbell, Denicio D'Aguila, Michael Sintard, Darren Henfield, Ramal Ferreira, Lanisha Rose, Renzo Rose, Ellsworth Johnson, Philip Davis, Vaughn Miller, Akisha Parker Edgecombe, Aaron Lewis, Carlton Bolag, James Mulgrew, Travis Robinson, Adrian Gibson, Donald Saunders, Frederick McAlpine, Hank Johnson, Mark Hume, Michael Folk, Miriam Reckley Manuel, Reese Chipman, Ruben Rami, Ricky Mackey, Shannon Cartwright, Chanel Ferguson, Glennis Hannah Martin, Faisal Forbes, Chester Cooper.
Good morning, honorable members. Honorable members, there will be no communication by the speaker this morning, but honorable members, several matters of immediate public importance has been brought to the attention of the speaker, and the speaker has acceded to the request of the member for Mangrove Key, South and St. Andrews. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Mangrove Key, South and Central Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is good to stand here in these hallowed halls this morning to say thanks to all for their well wishes and complimentary comments received or otherwise over the past few weeks and months. And to those whom I've not seen eye to eye or really agreed with, whether we met at funerals, church services, weddings, town meetings, homecomings, etc. You've made me and kept me grounded, honest, and some of you even inspired me, and others, even though critical, kept me going. I've learned from you. I've learned how to observe, listen, and overall, the collective you made me a better person and secondarily, a better member of parliament. It has been the greatest honor of my life representing my hometown in this place, Mr. Speaker. I've learned how to respect the dignity of my struggling communities, and also I witnessed the power of faith and how our collective efforts through engagement and community building initiatives made life a little more manageable for you, my constituency family. The demands were and still are great. I tried my best, many times giving up my personal meager resources to meet constituents' personal commitments or challenges or otherwise, be they healthcare costs, school fees,
educational and or rental assistance, or simply paying a light or water bill. It was always done with the the general notion, of making life easier for my people in Mangrove Key South and Central Andros. Yes, our progress at the constituency level has not been even or even evidenced in some quarters. But like President Obama said, and I quote, democracy has always been hard, contentious, and sometimes bloody, end of quote. Sometimes it appears for every 2 steps forward, it often looks like 1 step backward. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic did not make life any easier. I can proudly say, as I stand here today, that the communities of Mangrove Key, South and Central Andros are much better off today than we were when we commenced our partnership just over 13 years ago. I'll simply recap in my final 2 minutes. 2010, we had the $20 million dock constructed in Fresh Creek. Then we had the installation of what we call the Bishop Mackey dock in Bering Point. We created employment opportunities in the public and private sector. Preschool system was open in the constituency across the board. There would have been technological advances in our schools, agriculture and animal husbandry program. But Mr. Speaker, it would not be my good fortune to be around with my friend, who would have assisted so greatly, the member for Carmichael and Deputy Prime Minister, to see the opening of the $8 million plus gymnasium in South Andros. I would only wish I could have been there to maybe turn the spigot for the $13 million potable water system in South Andros, or to see through the completion of the dock work that I saw so proudly just last week as I sat on the dock in Lisbon Creek Harbor and saw the barge bringing in all the supplies into Mangrove Key, or to see the clinic in Mangrove Key and or the subdivision work completed. For all of the efforts made, though, it was not enough. My people are still highly disadvantaged, and what's more crippling than ever is the level of cynicism and polarization in our local politics. I never tried to fool anyone, nor did I have any illusions of the challenges my hometown was facing, but we tried. Today I stand, Mr. Speaker, to take my last political breath. My name would never rise again in political cycles. My work is done politically. Mr. Speaker, but as I leave, going forward, it would be my sincerest hope that we as a fledgling society would uphold law against discrimination in hiring, in housing, rental assistance, and social welfare, educational options, and in the criminal justice system. Passing laws in this honorable place is idealistic, and generally we feel that way. But passing of laws alone is not good enough. Our hearts must change, and it starts here. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank a few people before I take my seat. I'd like to say thanks to my beautiful wife, who's at home along with my daughter Priscilla watching this morning, who prayed with me this morning, my mom, Deaconess Lily Mae Forbes, my siblings and the extended community of South Central and Mangrove Key Andros. Special thanks to Brother Joel Ramming, Brother Charles Miller, Charmaine Ferguson, Andrea Russell and her husband, Mr. Russell, Brother Kendall Taylor, Aaron Roll, Sheba McPhee, Maggie Rogers, Raleigh and Auntie Russell, Elsie Smith, Wanda Carey, Jeffrey Johnson, Benji Forbes, the Reverend James Pratt, Administrator Francine Neal and Mr. Neely, and most importantly, my good friend Otner Lewis. Mangrove Key, Brother Leonardo Lightborn, I want to wish you the very best. Garnet Bullard, Garnell Grain, Harry Saunders, my real friend, Desmond Saunders and the Reverend Hubert King. And special thanks to Bishops Moses Johnson, Neil Ellis, and Lester Cox. The Reverend Christopher Smith and my good friend Sadie Bastian and Reverend Bastian in Mangrove Key. In Fresh Creek, Emily Miller, Reverend Hinsey, Arthur Brown, Glenn Johnson, Brother Klinger, thank you. And also to Dave Nemours, Chairman, Mabel Stubbs, Ida Nesbitt, Bishop Raymond Markey and Ranford Markey, and Dimey Russell, thank you. To former Prime Ministers, the Right Honorable Hubert A. Ingram, wish you the best in recovery, and also to the Honorable Perry G. Christie, I want to also wish you the very best. To my political friend, Mr. Speaker, before I take my seat, the Honorable Fred Mitchell, my true friend, Secretary General Barbara Cartwright, Ms. Lula Mae Smith. To my parliamentary colleagues, Senator the Honorable Dr. Michael Dowell, to Exuma and Ragged Island, Angliston, Golden Isles, and the member for Rumpke, Cat Island, and San Salvador, our leader, thanks for the high honor of having the opportunity to serve as leader of opposition business. To Brother Terry Duvalier and my brother, Rick, thanks very much. And to my still politically broken sister who's watching this morning, who's crying, Audrey Bullard Bonamy, I love you and cherish your heart and courage. To my detractors, it may be your day to celebrate or be gleeful. But I say, admittedly, that they did not get everything right. There were some missteps, but I'm confident in the fact that I'm not a slave to fear, but I'm an imperfect child of God. Mine has been the pleasure to serve. My faith has been rewarded in ways I could not possibly imagine. To all branch executives, volunteers, and those names I didn't call, please forgive me. To Administrators Campbell and Lightbourne, thanks. Hopefully you'll join you guys on the Fishing Rock pretty shortly. Local government practitioners, religious leaders, and civic leaders, thank you. To all of you, my colleagues, continue to be unselfish, altruistic, creative, patriotic, and serving our God. Once again, I just want the record to reflect, as I would have very short time, I guess, in this honorable place, and let the word go far and wide, that I will not be offering in the 2022 general election. But to those in my constituency who are concerned, please, I am okay. God has taken care of everything and will continue to do so. I will ask you to continue to believe in our country, our God, and to share love with our fellow men. As Androsians, please let us continue to protect our treasured Bahama land. Farewell, my brothers and sisters, farewell. May God continue to bless the communities of South, Central Andros, and Mangrove Key, and may our God continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Mangrove Key, South and Central Andros. Honorable Member, I've always regarded you as one of my best friends. And this is a sad day for me, indeed. But I want to encourage you, as you did in a most statesmanly manner this morning, indicating your sentiments to this honorable chamber with respect to your political career and your apparent imminent departure from this political arena. I know it's not been easy, it's been challenging, but I'll say this to you, and I'll take this word to you from Ephesians chapter 6, beginning at verse 10. Be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against evil schemes. For your struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against powers in dark places of this world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything to stand firm. Then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, and the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. And in addition, to all this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the word of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Honorable Member for Mangrove Key, South and Central Andros, I wish you all the best in your endeavors. As a senior man in this place, you have made many friends. And I'm certain that even as you leave, those who may remain will come to your rescue in your time of need. I speak that prayer over you this morning. Introduction and swearing in of new members. Laying of documents by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. Emergency Powers COVID-19 Pandemic Risk Management Number 4, Amendment Number 6, Order 2021.
Order that the document be brought up. That document to lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. The Prime Minister's Delivery Unit Annual Report 2020.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the following. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Authority Regulations 2001.
Order that the document be brought up.
I think you put it on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Bamboo Town.
Mr. Speaker, there are no further laying of documents by ministers.
Statements and communications by ministers.
Mr. Speaker, there are no statements and communications by ministers.
Communications by the clerk. Messages from the Governor General. Messages from the Senate. Motions for leave of absence, leave to resign, seat, and new writs. Presentation of petitions. Presentation of reports of committees. Adoption of reports of committees. First reading of bills. Second reading and committal of bills. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I want to commence the debate on the 2020 Fiscal Strategy Report. the public management, public financial management, debt management, statistics and public procurement bills. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we will follow budget rules. Mr. Speaker, last year I told Bahamians that we were in a fight against COVID and a fight to save lives. And under our leadership, the country launched an all-out assault on COVID-19, and we have seen the positive results. I remind Bahamians, however, do not let your guards down. And today, Mr. Speaker, we want to talk about another fight. Mr. Speaker, we are fighting for the Bahamian economy. We are fighting for Bahamian jobs and Bahamian businesses. We are fighting, Mr. Speaker, for our economic recovery and our economic growth. Although Hurricane Dorian and COVID has hit us with some devastating economic blows, we will continue to fight for our economy and be assured that this is a fight we will win. I want the public to rest assured that every member of my government is fighting for you and will win this fight. It is my privilege, Mr. Speaker, to commence the debate in the Honorable House of the 2020 Fiscal Strategy Report, or 2020 FSR, as required by the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018. I would like to remind this Honorable House that the Fiscal Responsibility Act was a transformative piece of legislation enacted by this government after years of talk by the opposition. It is driving the very types of changes we will debate starting today, Mr. Speaker. And the fiscal responsibility principles, as stated in the Act, are as follows: achieving and maintaining a sustainable fiscal balance, achieving and maintaining prudent levels of public debt, and prudently managing fiscal risk. Along with the 2020 Fiscal Strategy Report, which I would refer to as FSR moving forward, we will also debate a compendium of legislative reforms that are central to the government's fiscal strategy and, more importantly, critical to good governance. These include, Mr. Speaker, the Public Procurement Bill 2020, the Statistics Bill 2021, the Public Financial Management Bill 2021, and the Debt Management Bill 2021, which will bring about greater levels of efficiency, transparency, and most of all, accountability. Together, Mr. Speaker, these efforts underpin the government's mandate for good governance. Countries around the world with strong governance institutions have demonstrated they tend to do better economically over time. The reforms we are proposing are not only long overdue, they are the right thing to do. The former Christie Davis administration had talked about these reforms. In some cases, they had even drafted bills. But as is their custom, they are long on pretty talk, but short on effective action. They had neither the will nor the toughness to make things happen. This is how we are different from them, Mr. Speaker. We endeavor to do the right thing, even if it is not the easy thing. Mr. Speaker, my job as Minister of Finance is to keep the government's fiscal house in order and to do what is necessary to secure the economy today and for our children and grandchildren tomorrow. I only want to say that I'm saddened to hear, but I will talk to this at another time, that the member for South Andres, who has made great contribution to this parliament and has represented his South Andres constituency very well. As every time the member speaks, Mr. Speaker, it reminds me, and I'm sure many others, that he speaks with great passion and emotion on behalf of his constituency. Right. And he is very familiar, not only by face, but by name, with every member in his constituency. That is unheard of, and there are very few who has such talent and such camaraderie and closeness with their constituents. I only want to say to the member that he would be greatly missed, but many will remember his presentations and the way he represented his constituency, and be assured that whenever election is called, whomever we send there will follow in your footsteps. Speaker, I only want the member and others to hear that I'm certain that Kenneth Smith is up to the job, and Kenneth Smith will be the next representative for South Andres. Throughout this debate, Mr. Speaker, the public will hear big technical terms like fiscal targets and fiscal risk mitigation. Behind the jargon I am sharing today is the government's plan. A plan to restore the nation's financial health and build economic resilience beyond the coronavirus pandemic. It is, Mr. Speaker, a forward-looking three-year plan. It is clear. It is a clear and credible plan. And it is a plan that meets the opportunities and challenges of governance today and into the future. Despite the hollow criticisms of the opposition, this government, Mr. Speaker, is very deliberate and strategic in its approach to fiscal management. Last week I tabled a communication on the mid-year budget. This provided an update on the resilient Bahamas macroeconomic plan that was presented at the time of the budget debate last June. It was a carefully designed plan to achieve three objectives, Mr. Speaker. No, that was three. I didn't know grab. 1, 2, 3. These objectives were three objectives, Mr. Speaker, three. To support the social needs and well-being of Bahamians feeling the weight of the pandemic. 2, to maintain economic stability in the middle of the crisis. Mr. Speaker, we have maintained and worked on maintaining economic stability. During the crisis, one had to balance life with economy. And when one looks at what has happened around the world in terms of lives, I would say that we have accomplished that balance, and now we will look at our economy and move towards the future. And the third, Mr. Speaker, to plant the seeds for accelerated recovery. It was a plan that instilled confidence in the Bahamian people at the time. It is a plan that has since saved lives, protected public and private sector jobs, delivered millions in relief to vulnerable families, communities, and businesses, and kept the economy afloat despite the most severe economic calamity we have faced in our modern history. Mr. Speaker, I am here to explain the government's medium-term plan for revenue, expenditure, debt, and economic growth. We are not figuring out things while we go. We are not waiting to see what happens. We are envisioning a future beyond the pandemic and putting a plan in place to get us there. We are planning the future. And I want to say to those watching in TV land, and especially the young people, what we do, it's about your future. Mr. Speaker, the opposition should take note of the new standard. There will be no going back to the days of secrecy and mismanagement. The laws we are enacting will ensure those days are long gone in the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, the 2020 fiscal strategy includes four key focal areas over the next 3 years. I'm talking about 4, but over 3 years. 1, we will take care of our people. The pandemic has created great hardship all around the world. Governments have been called to provide greater levels of social support than ever before. We do so gladly because our health is our wealth, and our people are our priority. 2, we must put our finances in order. The double blow from Hurricane Dorian and COVID-19 threw us off the course we had undertaken successfully to bring down our deficits and our debt. We must recalibrate government finances and return to a more sustainable path. The plan calls for us to make state-owned enterprises work better and cost taxpayers less. It includes greater focus on public-private partnership for capital projects to provide the critical infrastructure, especially, Mr. Speaker, in our family islands. We are not, and we must not ever appear to be Nassau-centric. Mr. Speaker, as we move forward with our infrastructural plans throughout the family islands, we will ensure that our health facilities, clinics, are repaired and brought up to scratch. We will ensure that our schools are likewise. We will ensure that there are no discrimination between our family islands and New Providence. After all, Mr. We are one. And to show our sincerity with schools, we would very soon be traveling to Inagua to sign the contract for a new school in Inagua that is long. We would do the same, Mr. Speaker, to ensure, as part of our infrastructure development and expansion within the family islands, so as to assist our futuristic family island development and our tourist product. We'll ensure that our roads are repaired and brought up to par. And I must say that we are embarking to ensure that Red Bays and North Andros likewise will have their road repaired. Then, Mr. Speaker, part of this infrastructure expansion, correction, development within the family islands would include our docks, our bridges, water, and electricity. The member for Long Island is not here because I know he would want to talk about, I'm sure as he speaks he will talk about laying pipes and whatever else, and wherever else he have laid such water lines. But, Mr. Speaker, part of the infrastructural expansion is to ensure the advancement of our telemedicine program that we had commenced in 2008, 2009, or subsequently sidetracked. But since COVID, Mr. Speaker, the entire world has gone towards telemedicine. So I'm certain that the Minister of Health would embark on the most aggressive telemedicine program so that individuals in Nagua, Crocodile and Auckland, wherever, Exuma, would have access to specialist care without experiencing the cost of air flights traveling back and forth to see a doctor with such skills. And if second opinions are needed for that patient in Inagua or in Exuma, that patient can receive such second opinion, be it here from doctors in New Providence or the U.S. as is necessary. Mr. Speaker, we would do the same for our radiological departments, X-rays and ultrasounds, as we are moving into the digital era, of which I will speak more about as I advance throughout my debate. With ultrasound, all analog machines would be converted to digital. All analog X-ray equipment would be converted to digital, so that as individuals receive X-rays in the family islands, those X-rays can be interpreted by physicians here in New Providence or physicians in Grand Bahama on a on-call basis. Mr. Speaker, this would eliminate the problems we face in Family Islands today, where individuals fund Speaker, this would eliminate individuals having to. Yeah, I'm going on those bills too. I'm going to touch the bill. We want to stand on this too.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Cat Island, Romkey, and St. Salvador.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, today notice was given of us debating the midterm statement and the fiscal strategy report. That's what notice is given of. No, that's what you mentioned. No, you mentioned now that, Mr. Speaker, for the first time, this is the first time, and the first time we are hearing that we're doing these compendium of bills, bill number 171, 172, and none, I don't know if anyone was. These are important bills, man. These are very important bills. You don't just by some sweeping approach mention it. The first time we heard about these bills being debated is just now, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware that you were giving any notice of anything other than the midterm budget debate.
And tell them we'll come back.
Mr. Speaker, we are. You better be getting we are. Go on. Mr. Speaker, we are a government of transparency. We are a government of accountability. And though I had mentioned it last week, we would still honor the opposition's request, and we will put a day aside just to deal with those bills as you choose. It's quite evident that you are not prepared. We always do the right thing.
You're going to agree to it anyhow. There was consultation.
We always do the right thing.
Why?
Because we could debate.
But Mr. Speaker,
We could debate them, but not pass them.
yeah, we'd accommodate them. So, Mr. Speaker, all of our radiological equipment should be converted from analog to digital, so that those X-rays can be performed and interpreted by New Providence, Grand Bahama, and if necessary, can have a second interpretation by radiologists in the United States or whomever we have contracted. And this is where we are going, Mr. Speaker. Then the electricity. It is essential that we ensure that all of our family islands have electricity needs that are necessary. And very soon, we would demonstrate the changes that we've put in place within the Ragged Island and its solar component with electricity. Then, Mr. Speaker, as we continue along the road of our infrastructural development and expansion throughout the Family Islands, our parks would likewise be included. And as I mentioned before, we would reintroduce the Bahama Games. I see Pine Ridge left that. Oh, I am so happy you finally like something I said. That's 1 out of 100. 1 out of 100. At least I moved out of the zero category. Thank you, Pine Ridge.
Pine Ridge.
You may have thoughts. So, Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that South Andres is not here, but we've already commenced the completion process of the gymnasium in the South Andres constituency. And it is our intention that with the reintroduction of Bahama Games, The basketball component of the Bahama Games will be played in South Andres. Even if not the final, at least the preliminaries. And this is the first time, as Speaker, we are moving away from just New Providence and Grand Bahama, but allowing the family islands to be involved. This would also include baseball. And baseball components will be played in Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, and Bimini. After which the final can be played in one of the respective islands. You know, Mr. Speaker, Bimini used to be a big powerhouse in the past in the sporting arena. I always remembered going down, spending all my summers in Grand Bahama and going to watch baseball played by my brother, Cecil. Yeah, I used to watch. Oh, you probably was very short. That's why I never noticed you. You played too? You played that Randy role? Okay, yeah. No, I used to watch. I never used to play. But Bimini was very good. Bimini was, Yes. I used to watch. When Grand Bahama and Bimini played, that was like, it was like the World Series. So you know. And Mr. Speaker, I would have, even if I don't, the new Minister of Sports will have a lot to say about sports as we move forward. As I travel to Government House at 1:30 today for the swearing in of this new minister. The third, we must grow the economy. Turning the economy around and building economic resilience beyond the pandemic is a must. With our plan, Mr. Speaker, the government will unleash private sector investment with strong employment growth, embrace innovation, remove structural impediments to growth, and support a more digital and business-friendly government. 4, we must be vigilant. No matter how many plans we create, how many models we forecast, the world is an uncertain place today because of COVID-19. I say I get 2. That's the second agreement. I done well, Pine Ridge.
Coming back.
No, I didn't say that.
Coming back. I do stuff.
Okay, Pine Ridge nominations are not in my hand. I have one vote.
You can take a page of the Cat Island book.
That was a good place for a final order.
You have one vote too, right? You have one vote too. One vote. Anyhow, the country also has long-standing issues that pose fundamental risk. The plan calls for the government to stay sharp and to plan ahead to manage various risks. Mr. Speaker, Earlier, I alluded to the importance of growing the economy and restructuring public finances. The simple fact is that modernizing and enhancing our fiscal management legislation through the 4 bills presented today is a fundamental element in ensuring that we put in place a strong governance framework that supports economic and social development of the Bahamas for many years to come. I'll just say a few words, Mr. Speaker, about the Public Financial Management Bill 2021, but we will have a formal debate later. The Public Financial Bill, or PFM Bill 2021, represents the full recast of the current Financial Administration and Audit Act that was most recently substantively updated in 2010, but which foundation was back in 1975, some 46 years ago. And to meet the realities of a modern Bahamas, this very extensive bill will better define the roles of key officials in the public finance arena. It will expand the requirements for budgetary and fiscal reporting, including the eventual introduction of published monthly budget reports. So let me be clear, Mr. Speaker. For the first time in our history, every government will be required by law to report and publish every month the government's fiscal position. Do I get a third one? I get a third one. Oh, I doing good today. I doing good. Fine, which my love improving for you, you know. But I only have one vote. I only have one vote. And they already cast the die. They didn't come to for my vote. I don't know yet. I don't know and you don't know. Anyhow, it will require central government agencies, Mr. Speaker, and state-owned enterprises, or SOEs, to undertake documented performance management. This means they will have to publish management goals and objectives and report on their successes in meeting them. The PFM bill, Mr. Speaker, also sets specific administrative and criminal penalties for lack of compliance and for malfeasance. The bill sets a totally different standard for the management of the people's money. A few notes on the Procurement Bill 2020. And this bill is about government's contracts, how they are advertised, how they are managed, how they are awarded, and how they are publicized. The passage of this bill, Mr. Speaker, will be a watershed moment in the political history of the Bahamas. The mystery and the mischief and the chatter about who gets what contracts and in what amounts will fall away. The details of these activities will be published online promptly and will also be consolidated annually in a published report. It will require all government entities, including SOEs, state-owned enterprises, to register vendors on an online procurement portal and to use that portal to offer bids. It will be open and transparent. It will be transformative. I remind the public, Mr. Speaker, that the opposition had a draft procurement bill while they were in office. They never ever got around to seeing that it was passed, although they talked about it quite a bit. But again, Mr. Speaker, we don't do things just for show. We do things for a a purpose. Good governance is about doing what is right and not what is politically expedient. The bill is long overdue. We are thus confident that the opposition will embrace this bill after its debate wholeheartedly. The Statistics Bill, Mr. Speaker, 2021. This bill will transform the current Department of Statistics into a quasi-independent National Statistics Institute that will be governed by a board of directors. The bill defines the scope of what data points are included under the umbrella of national statistics. It provides enhanced power to the new institute to enforce the collection of vital information. Moving the institute outside the direct control of the central government will allow the entity more flexibility in recruitment of talent and management of operations. Given that this information has commercial value, the Institute will have the power to generate special reports, data sets, and subscriptions that it can offer for sale to help it offset its operational costs. And these special commercial reports and subscriptions will be in addition to the vastly expanded range of reports and statistics that will be made available to the public absolutely free of charge. Most importantly, Mr. Speaker, the new institute will allow the country to leap forward with its collection, analysis, and use of data for public and private policy decisions. It is, Mr. Speaker, and most certainly will be transformative. Mr. Speaker, data collection is extremely important, as we've seen with the pandemic. Our decisions were data and scientific driven. Our lockdowns were data and scientific driven. What we did were scientifically driven. And Mr. Speaker, we look today at the number of cases that we see versus that of hospitalization, and one can say that we are still on the right track with management, following the medical advice of the medical professionals. And as we have adhered to the advice of the professionals, and that being data-driven, Americans, the USA, would have likewise reviewed our data and come to the conclusion of moving us from a level 3 travel advisory to a level 2 travel advisory. And we are working aggressively, Mr. Speaker, to see whether we can be moved to level 1. Public Debt Management Bill, Mr. Speaker, 2021. This bill complements the Public Financial Management Bill, while many of its elements have been undertaken by way of operational policy for some time. The bill seeks to enshrine proper debt management protocols into the law and improves the transparency around the debt taken on by central government and by state-owned enterprise. It requires the government to create and staff a public debt management unit, and for the Ministry of Finance to consult with stakeholders. Again, my government is setting the standard and raising the bar for all future administrations, and the beneficiary of this is none other than the Bahamian people. Mr. Speaker, One of the government's most important roles is to foster a stable and dynamic macroeconomic environment that can stimulate growth. Simply put, the government should operate efficiently, get out of the way, and make it easy to do business in the country. The 2020 FSR outlines many of the government's plans to achieve this. And more importantly, we are moving beyond the report and putting these things into action. Mr. Speaker, let's look at public sector reforms, especially ease of doing business. For decades, we have heard talk about how difficult it is to do business in the Bahamas, with many processes being paper-based, costly, and taking extremely long. Change, Mr. Speaker, is happening across the government. I am pleased to report the government is fast-tracking efforts to create a digital land registry. This will make title searches faster and less costly. New software will soon be introduced at the Ministry of Works for electronic submissions of building permits. Mr. Speaker, it is somewhat distressing for many, both Bahamians and non-Bahamians, who want to construct, be it business or homes, the length of time it takes to get approval and the building permit. It may take months, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Works be introducing the proper amendment to the law so that architects, qualified architects, and registered with the Ministry of Works can submit their plans and receive immediate approval for construction of buildings and commercial complexes or commercial development up to certain stages. Mr. Speaker, what this means, you do not now have to submit a plan, wait 2 months for that to be reviewed, then take in the Ministry of Health for approval there for another 2 months, then taken to Environment for another approval for 2 months, then structural engineer has to look and reassess, moving from department or agency to agency, which may take 6 months or even more. A qualified architect would have already been certified, qualified. The plumbing design would have been done by a qualified plumber. The electrical component would have been done by electrical specialists, mechanical, structural, etc. And therefore that architect being registered submits such plan, and he is legally responsible for the plan in terms of litigation. And it's us, government's responsibility to inspect the various stages to ensure they comply with government's codes. And Mr. Speaker, what that would mean is that in very short order, rather than waiting for 6 to 8 months, these amendments, once enacted, you can receive that permit in a matter of days. And I know you would agree that's transformative. Oh, you see who is doing it? The Deputy Prime Minister, so that's not a question. That's not a question. It's just a matter of when. Digitization of government services, Mr. Speaker. This is important. To improve the access of residents and citizens to government services, My government is committed to a full digitization program that would span several years and multiple government agencies. We are making good on our promises. As of now, we have advanced the following: digitized customs processing via the Click to Clear program. Online e-passport renewal. Mr. Speaker, I just traveled to Exuma with the member for North Africa who has the responsibility for passports. And a new passport office was opened in Exuma, so that individuals won't have to be traveling back and forth, paying plane ticket, taking COVID test, finding accommodation, hotel or whatever, just for a simple passport. This is modernization. That's what's happening there. And then the members informing me that next week, I think, next Friday, I'll be traveling with him to Inagua to open the passport office in Inagua. That's transformative. So, with COVID, you don't have to come in, you don't have to travel, you can stay there and have everything done. Then, of course, Long Island. But Exuma is going. The hotel is open. Tourist, slow occupancy for now, but projected to increase. And we must prepare Exuma for tomorrow. It's about time. So the passport office is there. And yes, Exuma is getting a new airport as part of its preparation. And yes, Exuma's roads are being repaired as part of its preparation. And yes, we are developing a new township in Exuma. Just in case you don't know Exuma, because you try to claim these things, but listen to him. A new township in Exuma. So it'll all be a one-stop shop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, Lord, we didn't know, see,
So Exuma,
like this.
then, Mr. Speaker, as part of this digitization, modernization, revolutionary process, online driver's license renewal for New Providence, and soon to be expanded to Grand Bahama and the Family Islands. Online birth, marriage, and death certificates, cashless and streamlined vehicle inspection centers, online cruising permits and charter fees for boaters entering the country. And I know my Minister of Tourism just went out. I know the Minister of Tourism want to talk anxiously about the accomplishments there. And cashless immigration payment protocols and for processing of work permits and other immigration matters. And lots will be said about those matters when the minister with such responsibility speaks. And piloting of social welfare payments via digital wallets. Mr. Speaker, as I stand here, I have great difficulty holding my ministers back because they are anxious to speak about their success. All I say is, whoa! I must hold them back, Mr. Speaker. But the Bahamas will hear.
Don't slap your eye.
The Bahamas will hear of the way forward. They will hear of the new Bahamas as we come out of this COVID pandemic. And then, Mr. Speaker, easy online applications for small business grants, small home repair program, and even the National Food Program. The digitization initiative, Mr. Speaker, is kicking into high gear. In a matter of weeks, we will seek the formal launch of the government online portal. And with that launch, even more government services will go online. As I've said before, the goal is that the public sector should ensure that it is easy to do business with the government. The general public
You got time.
should, no, I have to burn till 1 o'clock. You want me to stay till 1 o'clock?
You got 3 hours, Pierre.
No.
Take your time. 3.
Yeah, no, I promise, I promise I'll burn the time. As I've said before, Mr. Speaker,
Budget rules.
yeah, I got 3 hours. So I am in no rush. I've already taken off my shoes. And I am very relaxed. You know, I had a good weekend, you know, Pine Ridge. The eagle is always flying. But the eagle landed. You'll understand. I like Pine Ridge. I like Pine Ridge. No. Pine Ridge said he wanted to retire. He said that. I won't talk our conversation, but I may attend your retirement party. That's the relationship. That's the relationship we have. As I said before, Mr. Speaker, the goal is that the public sector should ensure that it's easy to do business with the government. The general public should never be made to work hard and be inconvenienced to get things done in the public sector. We are making changes, Mr. Speaker. We are making changes to ensure that the government works for you. Not petty, not pretty talk, Mr. Speaker, but effective action. And I must say that we are doers, not talkers. With respect to business licensing,
Can do.
we recognize that we have to do more to get people started with their businesses more quickly. We are the government that pioneered the provisional business license that has allowed certain businesses to begin operations within 48 hours, even as they work through the formal licensing process. I have instructed the Ministry of Finance to expand the list of eligible businesses so that even more entrepreneurs can have access to a provisional license so that they can get going even more quickly. Then real property tax, Mr. Speaker, we've spoken and heard a lot about real property tax, but the whole collection process. In 2019, the government engaged the international software and technology firm Tyler Technologies to upgrade and modernize the real property tax roll at the Department of Inland Revenue. At the time, it was estimated that some $21 million in revenue was being lost due to incorrect property appraisals and antiquated systems. Although the door-to-door and lot-to-lot assessments were delayed due to the pandemic, we are pleased to announce that upgrades to the real property tax database and systems are soon to be completed. And these upgrades, Mr. Speaker, will allow for better synchronization between real property tax unit and DIR and the Registrar General's Land Registry. For the average Bahamian or investor, no longer will you have to wait weeks and pay high fees to investigate the amount of taxes owed on a piece of property you wish to buy or sell. With respect to investment reform, that has always been a challenge, Mr. Speaker. We understand that often it still takes too long for Bahamian and foreign investors to navigate our bureaucracy and get the necessary approvals. Key to a sustained economic recovery is the modernization and digitization of our investment regime for Bahamian and foreign investments alike. The government has to be seen as the facilitator of and not the impediment for productive investments throughout the country. And based on the advice and recommendation from the Economic Recovery Committee, we are taking steps to develop and subsequently launch the Invest Bahamas framework. And this entity will expand the remit of the current Bahamas Investment Authority to allow for increased marketing of the investment opportunities in the Bahamas, to increase foreign direct investment and business opportunities. Revision, when necessary, of the investment regimes and incentives to ensure maximum national competitiveness in attracting quality domestic and foreign investment. Introduction of a risk-based approach to investment approval such that foreign direct investment projects below a certain threshold do not need approval by Cabinet. Streamlining and digitization of processes required for large-scale Bahamian and foreign investments, and introduction of dedicated resources to remove and resolve bottlenecks to ensure projects continue to move through the pipeline. We have already, Mr. Speaker, began to see progress. As a part of the ERC's mandate to action their recommendations, one of the initiatives underway is to unclog the pipeline of domestic and foreign investment applications pending some form of approval. And in this regard, the ERC has secured a listing of all pending domestic and foreign applications and has, over the recent weeks, assisted the government with moving forward several investments that are expected to have significant economic impact on the economy and create temporary and permanent jobs for Bahamians. Examples of such projects are Hoopers Bay Marina, Exuma, a 27-slip marina and dry boat storage facility, Bella Vista, a hotel and beachfront development in West End, Grand Bahama, the marina expansion by Carnival Half Moon Key and Finley Key, New Providence, a construction project for a conservation center, research lodging, and caretaker accommodations. Mr. Speaker, I want to say again something about infrastructure development. I'm certain Pine Ridge would like this component. Huh? Pine Ridge. I just took my disclosure in this week, and I have a few dollars left. I could take it for lunch this week. I have a few dollars left. We can go to McDonald's, go to Wendy's. Mr. Speaker, the 2020 FSR proposes bold solutions that address the Bahamas infrastructure gap, estimated to be in excess of $2 billion. The government accepted the recommendations of the Economic Recovery Committee to ramp up public infrastructure as a key catalyst to drive the economic rebound. However, given the economic climate and related fiscal constraints, the government is designing innovative mechanisms and emphasizing public-private partnerships to mobilize substantial private sector capital, resources, and expertise. The government has begun to work with the support of the IDB to design a National Infrastructure Fund, NIF, that will invest in different sectors in need of infrastructure development. The NIF, Mr. Speaker, Infrastructural Fund, will fit within the ambit of our proposed sovereign wealth fund. It will be structured as a public-private master fund of fund or fund of funds with specific sector funds that are created over time. This is important especially for our family islands, as was mentioned previously. The plans to create a growth fund for the family islands, GFFI, to promote the development of needed infrastructure for sustainable tourism. And as I've said, Mr. Speaker, we are not Nassau-centric. We will ensure that our family islands get all the infrastructural needs so that their tourist product and their quality of life would grow even further. This will cover projects in transport and logistics, including airport, port, and maritime infrastructure. Work in this area is not waiting for the creation of the fund, although it will be enhanced by the existing of a fund in the long term. Today, airports in Exuma, Long Island, and North Eleuthera are badly needed. The more recently constructed airport in Marsh Harbor is already in need of substantial upgrade and expansion. I am told that the estimated cost to refurbish and expand these airports is some $150 million, a sum that would outstrip available government capital resources at this time. And Mr. Speaker, by mobilizing private sector resources effectively, as is now common the world over, the government is able to ensure the appropriate levels of investments in the critical infrastructure that will be necessary to underwrite robust and sustained economic growth. The government, Mr. Speaker, is considering other sector-specific funds, including a renewable energy fund and food security fund. As mentioned, these investment vehicles will be components of the planned sovereign wealth fund. The idea, Mr. Speaker, is to monetize underutilized public assets. And in this way, the government will be able to lease, joint venture, or pledge public assets towards projects and generate new cash flows which would be used to fund its participation into the National Infrastructure Fund and promote economic growth and resiliency. Mr. Speaker, this is extremely important as the government has a vast amount of not only land but buildings that many are derelict and can be utilized in such participatory events so that we can continue to expand and grow our economy and our country. Housing development, Mr. Speaker, we must look at public-private partnership. A key element of both net-term economic recovery and long-term inclusive economic growth will be the provision of affordable residential properties and homes. And Mr. Speaker, this is most important, especially for our young people. Many of our young people, Mr. Speaker, would find great difficulty in purchasing land within our country. And before I expand on that, I only want to point out that we have started already with the service lots program, most recently in Carmichael. And there in the Carmichael area, Mr. Speaker, lots that would be appraised at $70,000 with all the infrastructure in place would be sold. I know initially we had said $20,000, but Cabinet feels that our young people deserves even a better chance. And these service lots with all infrastructure in the Carmichael area, though appraised at $70,000, would be sold to our young Bahamian populace at $15,000. Mr. Speaker, what that would mean, and we've had discussion with entities, financial entities, what that would mean a $70,000 lot, the government selling to its citizens for $15,000, it means that they already have an equity of $55,000, and therefore they can use that equity as a down payment to build their homes as opposed to the obstacles that they face today. Never before has this been done. Wonderful. And the demand, Mr. Speaker, for these lots have been overwhelming. Today I am pleased to advise that through a PPP arrangement, we will be soon launching the commencement of a 150 lot subdivision upscale within the western New Providence area that will be geared strictly to young professionals, young Bahamians, young millennials. Mr. Speaker, the cost of land, especially in the western area, is prohibitive. Our young professionals coming back or finishing University of Bahamas cannot afford to buy land. I had purchased 3 pieces of lots some time ago within the western district of New Providence. One for each of my sons. And I had purchased those lots at $40,000 each. And today, each is worth $150,000. What it meant is that had I not bought it for them, they could not afford it. And many young people fall within that category today, Mr. Speaker. The land is too expensive. And it's the government responsibility to ensure that Bahamians can participate in what we call the Bahamian dream. They want to own a home. They want jobs, and they want proper quality of life, health care. Land have been identified, and we were concentrating on one set of land, 150 lots, upscale, with clubhouse facility also, upscale. But the demand and the request was so great that we've looked for more. And I am proud to say that we've identified another area, all in the western district and within the Kalani constituency. So for those young people who are watching me as I speak, I say to them, welcome to Kalani. Now, Mr. Speaker, these lots, when completed, the first 150, and of course we will expand, will worth a minimum of $150,000. And we will sell these lots to our Bahamians so that they can get a start at $50,000. Now, Mr. Speaker, I won't be surprised. I have cabinet colleagues who bend over backward to assist the young people and Bahamians, especially in land ownership, individuals finishing university, finishing UB, high school, etc., who want opportunity. It would not surprise me if I am browbeaten one day in cabinet and they say, you know, Prime Minister, 50,000 is a bit too much. We think it should come to 40. I won't be shocked. But I don't know what they'll do yet.
Say no more.
But at this point,
Say no more.
it's 50,000. What it means, Mr. Speaker, even reporters from Tribune, Guardian, and Bearer would be able to participate in such a program. We won't discriminate. We won't discriminate. They are Bahamians. Land for Bahamians. And we will put in guidelines, etc. But because they would have purchased a $150,000 piece of lot for $50,000, there's $100,000 equity. Which bank can you not go into with $100,000 equity and build your home without a down payment? Now, is that not good parentage?
Make sure the rich people don't buy.
Oh, that ain't gonna happen. No, that ain't gonna happen. Individuals? No. We will protect the Bahamian. Individuals like myself cannot buy such land. Cannot. All right? The deputy and Exuma, they cannot. You know, we're looking out for everybody, the average individual. We will not allow individuals to buy 3-4 lots and sell on speculation. No, it won't happen. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, the government's policy will continue. Because there are subdivisions designed by this government, what it means that in addition to having $100,000 equity, and maybe 110, I don't know, because they may take it to 40, I don't know. 40 is a good number. 40 is a good number. You see? 40. I listen to my cabinet colleagues. They now tell me 40. Who knows, someone else may carry something, but I don't want to go down that road. Because I know that the Deputy Prime Minister is a very compassionate individual. He's very concerned about individuals who do not have enough, or individuals who don't have anything. He's very concerned about upliftment. So I won't be shocked if I have a very
You have a good heart. You have a good heart, Prime Minister.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Speaker, in addition to the $100,000 equity, those individuals would be able to build duty-free. Those individuals. So, Rashad, you're listening? That's you? Oh, okay. Well, I know Rashad watching me on TV. I know Royston listening. And I certainly know Tamika is listening, or Jasmine, and Rachel.
Hey, BFP, you got a Rashad right there.
Oh, I got a Rashad here. I was talking about Tribune Rashad, but you can purchase too. But, Mr. Speaker, the equity they would have, and they would pay no duty to build. That is really... Now, that is truly moving towards the Bahamian dream.
Yes. The Bahamian dream.
You know, Mr. Speaker, when I was a little boy growing up in Baintown, we used to skate Union 5s at that time, metal wheels. I don't know if you would remember. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you would remember. Union 5s. And we used to skate from Market Street all the way out west. The Tropical Garden area. Because what was most challenging for us at that time as kids was skating from the top of Tropical Garden Hill towards Bay Street. Skates didn't have brakes. You had to know how to turn sideways to slow down. But what was most important, we always had a runner out on the main Bay Street. In the event we start the descent and a car was coming, it meant that you had to start holding brakes coming down that hill. And then we used to skate the hill going down towards Bay Street. And as a little boy, Mr. Speaker, who was shining shoes, selling newspapers, etc., and who worked in tailor shop after school, sewing pants, I never progressed to coat. Coats, you never made any money. Pants was more productive. You finished in 1 hour and collected your $3. Coats took you 3 days and you only made $4. That made no sense. Made no financial sense. So I never advanced the coat, just pants. But I would have never dreamt, Mr. Speaker, as a little boy skating there on Tropical Garden Hill, that one day I would be living on that hill. Never dreamt.
5 acres. Over the hill.
Never dreamt.
On top of the 5 acres. 5 acres on there.
But just as it had happened for me, through hard work, I want to ensure that every Bahamian has that opportunity. So, Mr. Speaker, this would not only occur in New Providence. The Deputy Prime Minister and I have a commitment. I said to him that, listen, we have to, how government is run today, we have to look at it differently. We have to look at it differently. Never done before. And what I've said to him, in our next term, I want to concentrate on the poor.
You got that fine urge?
I want to concentrate on land given out to Bahamians to ensure that everyone has an opportunity for land and home. And I want to concentrate on Bahamian ownership. I want to confine myself as Prime Minister in the next term just to those components. And he run the rest of the government. Let me confine myself to that. So we're going to split. It's never been done before. But it'll be more effective. It'll be more effective, especially when you have a great relationship. It'll be more effective. It's never been done. Just like where I said that, no. East Grand Bahama was very good, is good, and if anything you can see, I think you have something to do. Mr. Speaker, they knocked my train of thoughts off now. What was I about to say?
Just like you did in the past. The synergy of...
Yes, Mr. Speaker. You know, it was just like when I said years ago that as Prime Minister I will accept no ministry. I was lambasted left, right, and center. What dumb idea that is, and this and that. They've never heard it. Now it's the best thing that happened. I am certain that every Prime Minister moving forward will not have a ministry. Because he or she, because I look forward to see a female Prime Minister. I look forward to see a female.
Let me tell you, I can tell you too. What you saying? You don't get out and they give you a chance?
Mr. Speaker,
Get out and give you a chance?
Mr. Speaker, I have made a commitment that the one thing I want to see in this Bahamas, I believe in equality, but the one thing I want to see, my life was successful as a result of women. Growing up with my mom, single parent. My profession, gynecologist. I've made my whole businesses as a result of individuals like you, Anglison, women. And my greatest dream is to one day see a female prime minister in the Bahamas. I don't drink, but on that day, I will have what they call a Manhattan, what they call it, New Yorker or Manhattan? What is it? Manhattan. What's that? What's that? Rum and coke? Bahama Mama.
That's what you have.
Bahama Mama.
That is the day for me to have a Bahama Mama. All right? And I'll take it publicly. I'll take it publicly. So no, Mr. Speaker, the land program will not be confined to New Providence. We are already looking at land in the Murphytown area to do a similar project. But Mr. Speaker, we also recognize that individuals in Abaco and Grand Bahama, for example, have undergone a lot more stress, turmoil than us in New Providence and other family islands. They were hit with Dorian and then COVID, which would have impacted them economically even more than the other family islands. And knowing that their employment status would have changed, it's only fair, and I'm sure Pine Ridge would agree, it's only fair that the land sold to individuals in Abaco or Grand Bahama should be even less. And similar programs, Mr. Speaker, will be done in the Murphytown area, land development, etc., duty-free, and their land will be extremely cheap. And yes, we have challenges in Abaco with mud and whatever, and I'm sure, not mud, anyhow, but I'm sure the member for North Abaco will speak to that. But I want the Bahamians to hear. I want the Bahamians to hear. There are many individuals who are living in these so-called dilapidated facilities of Haitian descent within Abaco or New Providence. Many are regularized. Many are Bahamians. Many are Bahamians. And they too are entitled to land also.
Yes.
So that they can move out of such squalor conditions into proper facilities. So that when and if they are hit by any hurricane, they are protected. The only thing I ask of them, and I'm sure they are listening, the only thing I ask of them, we are Bahamians. We are not Haitian Bahamians. We are Bahamians. And therefore, that's the name and the brand we will carry. And they are entitled to land within the subdivisions created within the Bahamas, be it Managua, be it New Providence, or wherever. They are Bahamians under the Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, Eleuthera will not be excluded, especially in the South. In the South, Eleuthera is challenged, the young people are challenged with home ownership, and certain settlements, I'm sure the member for South Guthrie can speak to that. So certain settlements are bottlenecked in terms of expansion. And now you see Pinewood with such a vast plan for the Bahamas and the young people. Now you see why it's essential that I must concentrate my efforts on those components: land ownership, home opportunities, while the Deputy Prime Minister concentrate on other things. Because that land ownership, that is dear to me. Bahamians owning a piece of the rock at their own home, that is great satisfaction to me. They cannot afford it. They cannot afford it. And it's the government's responsibility to see to it that they have proper house, proper roof over their head. And be assured, this government will make it happen. Now, Mr. Speaker, Real Property Tax Forgiveness Program. Real property tax collection has long been a challenge for the government. There's been some improvement over the years, but there remains a substantial backlog of real property tax arrears spanning many administrations. And my government understands the challenges faced by families and business owners, which are being exacerbated by the COVID-19 economic downturn. And to ease the burden on persons and to provide them with some measure of relief, Cabinet approved a real property tax forgiveness program that will provide substantial discounts on arrears. For Bahamian property owners, my government will waive 50% of the total amount unpaid arrears for more than 180 days on such property, including overdue tax and accumulated surcharges, where full payment of all amounts due and payable is made on or before the 31st of May 2021. Mr. Speaker, I need to repeat that. For Bahamian property owners, my government will waive 50% of the total amount paid and total amount unpaid arrears for more than 180 days on such property, including overdue tax and accumulated surcharges, where full payment of all amounts due and payable is made on or before the 31st of May 2021. For those who are unable to pay 50%, if they enter into a payment agreement with a 25% down payment on or before the 31st of May 2021, the government will waive the total accumulated surcharge payable on taxes assessed on such property that has remained unpaid for more than 180 days. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge Bahamians to contact the Department of Inland Revenue and take full advantage of this tax forgiveness program. We also, and will continue, small business support. The strength of any small economy are the small and medium-sized businesses, as they are the momentum behind the resurgence of domestic activity after economic shocks. During the peak of the pandemic, we provided over $45 million in funding to help our small businesses weather this disaster. And now, as we emerge, even more support is needed to help our businesses to expand. I am pleased, Mr. Speaker, to announce the recent investment of more than $1.5 million in equity funding for the Bahamas Entrepreneurial Venture Capital Fund with unique and innovative Bahamian businesses. We anticipate that 7 new businesses will benefit and create over 130 Bahamian jobs. As the Bahamas Development Bank continues its restructuring and rebranding exercise, they too will soon be recapitalized to support the pipeline of more than $20 million in Bahamian projects. Mr. Speaker, the government has provided record-breaking assistance to small businesses throughout our country. In agriculture, forestry, and fishing, over $2.4 million has been approved, of which $1.5 million is grant funding to a total of 80 Bahamians. In the construction industry, over $5.5 million has been approved, with $1.3 million being grant funding to 135 Bahamians. For the new innovative fashion industry, a total of $1.1 million has been approved, with almost $400,000 in grant funding to 73 Bahamians. In manufacturing, $2.4 million has been approved, with approximately $200,000 in grant funding. Mr. Speaker, the Small Business Development Center has assisted an unprecedented 1,543 Bahamians. A local taxi company came to the SPDC in 2019 and obtained a business loan and grant for the owner to expand her fleet of vehicles, and they received total funding of $240,000. As tourism was hardest hit by COVID, she sought assistance under the Business Continuity Program and received a $20,000 grant and loan support of $130,000. That taxi company owner now reports that she was able to retain all 13 of her staff complement, and that business is slowly but surely picking back up as tourism starts to rebound. Mr. Speaker, today I would also like to announce the launch of the partnership between SPDC, DIR, and the Ministry of Agriculture's Roadside Vendor Program, focusing on training opportunities and funding within the coconut industry. The initial focus point involves providing basic training to the street vendors, referred to as capacity building. This training, to be facilitated by the Ministry of Agriculture and the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute, will involve the production of authentic Bahamian coconut products such as jewelry, coconut water, coconut oil, flakes, creams, soaps, and lotions. Upon successful completion of the first phase, the second phase will be a guided process workshop on matters such as how to obtain a business license, training in basic food handling techniques, and the processes in meeting all other regulatory requirements that may be required. The DIR, Mr. Speaker, the Bahamas Agricultural Food Safety Authority, BAFSA, Ministry of Education and Physical Planning, will be instrumental in this process along with other regulators. In conjunction with the second phase, the third area of concentration will be facilitating necessary funds and support for the acquisition of carts or basic production equipment, uniforms, and raw materials for their day-to-day business. And this element, Mr. Speaker, will be shepherded through the SPDC and local financial institutions as necessary. Mr. Speaker, there are a great many of accomplishments that I am proud of during my tenure thus far as the chief servant of the Bahamian people. But the one thing that even the most vocal critic of this F&M government will agree on is this. This present administration has done more than any other to provide support and capital, hard currency, in the hands of Bahamian entrepreneurs and small businesses. And second place is not even close. I made a pledge with the Speaker to spend an unprecedented $25 million over 5 years to support Bahamian businesses. Some 3 years since that pledge, we have spent well over $50 million supporting our wonderful Bahamian entrepreneurs and small businesses. We have supported programs targeting the underprivileged communities of our inner city in places like Angliston. And we have risen to the challenge to provide direct support to small businesses in Grand Bahama and Abaco hit by Dorian and to other family islands. We have provided support to small businesses all over the country impacted by the pandemic. We have not left out our family islands. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, I am especially proud that my administration has done it the right way. We recruited top-notch managerial and support staff talent for the Small Business Development Center. We appointed an eminently qualified board, and we allow them to do their appointed task without fear or favor. This is how we are different from them, Mr. Speaker. No one had to come to me. No one had to go to a minister or an MP. It did not matter, and it does not matter if an applicant is an F&M, a PLP, a DNA, or has no party affiliation whatsoever, even independent. Oh, you independent? Oh, okay. Yes, I accept that. The point is, Mr. Speaker, they are Bahamians. And regardless of their political affiliation, they are entitled to what the Bahamas offers. Neither I nor anyone on this side would ever want these opportunities for Bahamians to be colored by politics. All the applicants had to do was to be Bahamian, be qualified for the specific initiative, and fit inside the available funding envelope. We did it the right way, Mr. Speaker, and for the right reasons. It is still Pine Ridge. It is still the people's time. We are preparing for the future. I say to the young people who are watching and listening to me, it is about your future. We, on this side, represent your future. They, on that side, should remain the past. They do not understand the future. Mr. Speaker, all governments have made pledges to support Bahamian small businesses when they are campaigning. All have spoken about increasing the funding to small business, the small Bahamians. Some even have followed through and make some incremental advances. But what is undoubtedly true is that this This is the administration that has done it. Has done it in the biggest and most extensive way, touching more entrepreneurs than ever before. That's why we will bring forth the statistics bill to show what I said is all facts. And in the toughest of times as well, we are not about pretty talk. We are about effective action. Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned earlier, the PFM Public Finance Management Program and work that the project has been doing thus far will transform the ability of the government to more effectively monitor priority projects and make better data-driven decisions. One of the most visible aspects of this program is the creation of a specialized team called the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit that works with various government agencies to establish key performance indicators and ensure that the government is achieving its targets. Mr. Speaker, that unit is headed by Deanna Gardner, who has done an outstanding job thus far, and I'm sure will continue. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to present the 2020 annual report of the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit to this House, which includes detailed reporting of results of government's key priority areas. I tabled this, Mr. Speaker. Priority areas such as education, of which the Minister with responsibility for education will speak about. I'm sure he will remind the young people that the government has given them free education at the University of Bahamas, free education at UTBVI,
Preschool.
and those preschool, and those traveling from the islands are given, what is it, $500, $700? $500 per month to assist them with rent. Free education and schooling at BAMZ. BTVI, the Minister of Education will talk all about that, Mr. Speaker. So in addition to giving them free education, we now want to ensure that they also have their homes and jobs. Mr. Speaker, the areas government's key priority areas, as mentioned in the delivery unit manual, not only education, but safety and security, ease of doing business, over the hill rejuvenation, and I know the member for Bain and Grantstown will talk extensively about the over the hill program, land reform, energy reform. And I want to remind the Bayman populace that when we were experiencing and talking a lot about load shedding and electricity off, that matter, that has been corrected. And in addition to that, electricity bill has decreased by 50%. That's a start. That's a success story.
No. That's different than the installed capacity.
What I got to do with the bill?
That's different than usage. That's different than usage.
You mix up with them. You mix up.
That's different than usage.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I understand. Talking about the kilowatt.
So, allow me to repeat.
We have more than enough supply for
We are no longer experiencing load shedding, as the minister, as he speaks, will speak of how he has corrected that challenge, and the electricity bill has decreased by 50%. That is success. In addition to that, then we speak ease of doing business. Ease of doing business is a part of that. And Mr. Speaker, I'm sure many Bahamians would remember the challenge we've had with the dump fires, and the scent of the dump in the western area, the Cable Beach area. The hotels were complaining and faced the challenge. The residents of Lake Cunningham used to complain. I remember my sister complaining all the time. Even as far as where I live, the dump was a challenge. And Pinewood, you would agree with me that Pinewood, you would agree that that was well done.
We didn't take a tour of that dump yet.
The dump is now a park. I've told it's a park.
Seagulls don't hang around no more.
No. Also, Mr. Speaker, modernization of public service through digitization and reconstruction of Abaco and Grandam, all would be reported in here. Mr. Speaker, these recent times have been challenging for all. And throughout this debate, my ministers and members of Parliament will continue to detail what the government is doing to fight for the lives of Bahamians. Especially when I look at COVID, the United States has had more than 500,000 deaths. Heinrich, you know what that would have done to the Bahamas if we had that amount of death?
Wouldn't be no more Bahamas.
We would be past tense. And that is why we are futuristic. And that is why it's all about your future.
Somebody nominating? You say nominating Patrick? I ain't no dumb for nomination. Oh, y'all gotta list us off for that.
We have to have a talk. Because I know you still may want to come over. You double-crossed me the last time.
You don't want Anderson some stuff coming. You don't want guys there. Eggleston took off her glasses.
He was supposed to be my candidate. And I was sitting down, lying down in my bed watching TV.
Right.
And then there was a PLP rally. And who you think I saw walking on the stage?
Yes,
Walking on the stage. But how you do the crab sign? How you do it, Eggleston? I don't remember. He had his placard. I said, well, no. He double-crossed me.
Chair recognizes honorable member for the exhumus on the point of order.
The Speaker. I was in my bed, man. You wasn't in there with me.
I've addressed this issue before. We have very serious national crisis in our country. We don't have this time. We don't have time for nonsense, untruths, Mr. Speaker. I've addressed it before. I won't address it again. But I asked the Prime Minister to speak to the needs of our country. It's blatantly untrue, Mr. Speaker. For the record, and I will not say this again, I never applied to the FNL for a nomination, Mr. Speaker. We are We are where we are. We have serious national crisis in this country, and we have no time for nonsense and games. We must speak to the hunger and the poverty and the suffering in our country, and that's what I wish to hear about, Mr. Speaker. Anyhow.
That's what the Prime Minister has been doing for the past.
Anyhow, Exuma, I now know what your debate will be. You will talk about
Crisis.
Yes, I understand. I mean, it's good it's good to preempt us. Good to preempt us. Mr. Speaker, I want to say, Bahamian people, in tourism, we are fighting for you. In education, we are fighting for you. In healthcare, we are fighting for you. You can take a break here.
No, when you're done, PM, Michael.
Yeah. For every mother struggling to make ends meet, we are fighting for you. For every young person struggling to find a job or make your own business, we are fighting for you. While we may feel pressure, we are not in a state of panic. We may feel stress, but we are not in distress. As we continue to deliver on our resilient Bahamas plan, we will emerge from this crisis even stronger. We will be a better Bahamas, a better people.
Yes, we will be.
If we stay the course.
We'll be strong on the other side. Strong.
And Pine Ridge,
Yeah.
you will stay the course. Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I move that the fiscal strategy report and the midterm budget communication be adopted.